Uber London Limited found to be not fit and proper to hold a private hire operator's licence. TfL has concluded that it will not grant Uber London Limited a new private hire operator's licence in response to its latest application. In a statement released by TfL, this is what they had to say. As the regulator of taxi and private hire services in London, TfL is required to make a decision on Uber's fitness and propriety before its current licence expires, which happens to be this evening. Safety is TfL's #1 priority. Really? Uber has made a number of positive changes and improvements to its culture, leadership and systems in the period since the Chief Magistrate granted it a licence in 2018. This includes interacting with TfL in a transparent and productive manner. They go on to say that they have identified a pattern of failures by the company, including several breaches that place passengers and their safety at risk. Despite addressing some of these issues, TfL does not have the confidence that similar issues will not reoccur in the future, which has led it to conclude that the company is not fit and proper at this time. In September, Uber was granted a 2-month licence as further information was required on these issues, some of which emerged late in the process of its reapplication. A key issue identified was that a change to Uber's systems allowed unauthorised drivers to upload their photos to other Uber driver accounts. This allowed them to pick up passengers as though they were the booked driver, which occurred in at least 14,000 trips, putting passenger safety and security at risk. This means all of the journeys were uninsured and some passenger journeys took place with unlicensed drivers, one of which had previously had their licence revoked by TfL. Another failure allowed dismissed or suspended drivers to create an Uber account and carry passengers, again compromising passenger safety and security. TfL recognises the steps that Uber has put in place to prevent this type of activity. However, it is a concern that Uber's systems seem to have been comparatively easily manipulated. Other serious breaches have also occurred, including several insurance-related issues. Some of these led TfL to prosecute Uber earlier this year for causing and permitting the use of vehicles without the correct hire or reward insurance in place. Whilst Uber has worked to address these issues, they highlight the potential safety risks to passengers of weak systems and processes. This platform of regulatory breaches led TfL to commission an independent assessment of Uber's ability to prevent incidents of this nature happening again. This work has led TfL to conclude that it currently does not have confidence that Uber has a robust system for protecting passenger safety while managing changes to the app. Legislation means that Uber has now 21 days to appeal, during which it can continue to operate pending any appeal and throughout any potential appeals process. Uber may seek to implement changes to demonstrate to a magistrate that it is fit and proper by the time of this appeal. Helen Chapman, Director of Licensing, Regulation and Charging at TfL, said, "As the regulator of private hire services in London, we are required to make a decision today on whether Uber is fit and proper to hold a licence. Safety is our absolute top priority. While we recognise Uber has made improvements, it is unacceptable that Uber has allowed passengers to get into its minicabs with drivers who are potentially unlicensed and uninsured. It is clearly concerning that these issues arose, but it is also concerning that we cannot be confident that similar issues won't happen again in the future. If Uber chooses to appeal, they can continue to operate, and we will closely scrutinise the company to ensure the management has robust controls in place to ensure safety is not compromised during any changes to the app." Fellow cabbies, for what it's worth, here is my perspective on TfL's decision not to renew Uber's licence. Whilst you might think that the statement contains some relevant points, I for one, and I think we all should be very, very concerned that they haven't revoked their licence and banned Uber outright. TfL freely admit that there are fundamental flaws in the way Uber process drivers, and they go on to admit that 14,000 journeys were undertaken where no insurance would have been in place. So, given the fact that Uber will be allowed to continue under appeal, what provision has Uber put in place to guarantee that multiple drivers will not be able to operate under the guise of one account? And before a single journey is undertaken after midnight tonight, what conditions have TfL put in place so that Uber drivers do not carry out any more journeys until Uber can ensure public safety? If no provision is put in place, then TfL are abdicating their regulatory duty to protect the travelling public. And as they have already admitted, they cannot guarantee passenger safety, and the only option is left to ban Uber outright until such provisions are in place. With that, we should all be calling upon TfL to apply Section 17.2 of the Private Hire Act and revoke Uber's licence in the first instance. Furthermore, if they do not, then the trade need to JR TfL's decision to allow them to operate without delay. If the trade doesn't JR this decision and demand a revocation of their ability to operate, then it is one hell of a catastrophic mistake and a failing on our part, and the trade deserves everything it gets laden with. Every last penny within the trade should be spent on JRing this decision to allow Uber to continue. I cannot emphasise this enough. If we don't, we are to be considered a laughingstock by TfL.
You found London Taxi Radio, the station for London's taxi drivers.